Hello, Simon, and welcome to the World Vegan Travel Podcast.
Hello, great to be invited on this, something very close to my heart.
Fabulous. Well, I am so excited to talk more to you and to share with our listeners what you are doing in the vegan travel space. Before we get into all of those details, could you introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name's Simon Tonkin, and I'm based right in the southernmost tip of Europe in Spain. We're not too far from Tarifa, which is the southerlymost town in Europe, and we're just 14 kilometers from the coast of Africa, Morocco. And I'm one half of the Inglorious Bustards. It's a name you'll not easily forget. And that's a birding and wildlife tour operator here in the Straits of Gibraltar, offering flyway experiences because we're at this bottleneck of migratory bird passage, and it's phenomenal to witness this huge coming together of soaring birds that have to cross at this narrow sea crossing. So we run that, but also at the same time, we're running our charitable conservation side of that work as well, which is called the Flyway Birding Association. And it's a way of us being transparent about utilising our profits to help conservation on the ground, where a little bit of money can go, hopefully, a long way.
Well, I definitely want to ask you what the significance of flyways are in the birding world. But before we get onto that, you really have such an unusual story. Like, when did your fascination with birds begin and how did it become a career?
I was actually talking to my mum the other day about when was it that I actually got really interested in nature and wildlife, but I really can't tell you the key spark, but there were several different points. The first time I ever got a pair of binoculars and went out, they were actually my dad's binoculars, and I stole them without his knowledge. I went out and I walked across an estuary to find all these birds, and I came back covered in estuarine mud, so were the binoculars. And to my surprise, my dad wasn't too angry. He actually gave me the binoculars in the end. So that's when I kind of started birding, and then had various roles within conservation, which is really something very close to our heart that we brought into the travel sector, so combining that together. I can't remember a time my mum was recalling when I was in a pram, she used to park me under a tree with house sparrows in it to make me shut up. So it was the only thing that seemed to keep me quiet. And that's true today, actually. That's still the same.
For listeners that don't know, I am also a keen amateur birder as well, and I'm just in awe of seeing little sparrows flying around. It makes life so much more interesting when you're interested in birds because they are literally everywhere. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's the great thing about birds. You can, like you say, they're everywhere. And everywhere is different as well. Actually, watching birds brings you close to other nature, gets you to some weird and fabulous places you wouldn't dream of going to. And the places I've visited throughout my life, I've been really lucky because if I wasn't into nature or birding, I definitely probably would not have gone to those places. And I've had other great cultural, culinary experiences there as well at the same time as a result of that. So that's really cool.
So you obviously worked in conservation for a very long time. I think you worked for the RSPB, which is the British organisation, the Royal Society of Protection of Birds. I think I was a junior member when I was a child. How have these experiences shaped the way you see wildlife and tourism today?
I worked, as you say, for the RSPB and later on for an organisation called Conservation Grade, who actually worked on agriculture. And most of my work at the RSPB was around agriculture, sustainable land use. And that was both at the advisory implementation side, but also at the policy side as well, and even into the market as well. And being very interested in land use policy and conservation, and being a vegetarian for land use reasons, those are my reasons for being vegetarian. And it actually started me thinking about travel operators and how we have these great nature tourism opportunities, but maybe they aren't the most sustainable way of doing it. And there's some good examples out there, but there's some pretty poor examples as well in the nature travel sector. And that's kind of a worry because we're going there to see something that we love, and surely we want to protect it. And one of those things is actually about food choice as well, and the whole story of food locally here, how it's produced, what the land impacts of that are, and actually in the food that we offer on tour, what the conservation benefits are as well of having that produce. And that's a whole food story that people do go away with from our tours, and it's something very close to my heart because I've worked in it for such a long time. But it's clear to me that the fork is probably the biggest tool for conservation in the world. So it's vitally important to get it right, and we have the opportunity to do that on tours and use it as a nice way of educating people and having a discussion about it without proselytizing.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about flyways, I think, because that's really important to explain what you were doing and where you were doing it is so important. Could you explain what a flyway is?
Essentially, a flyway is a migratory path. And yeah, there are many flyways throughout the world. And we just happen to be right at the epicenter of what they call the East Atlantic Flyway. So that's most of the birds traveling from sub-Saharan Africa up into Western Northern Europe. So that's the East Atlantic Flyway. And most of Northern European birds pass through this point. So birds, for instance, going to the UK, nearly all of them pass through the Straits here. Not all, but most. And for soaring birds here as well, it's the only place they can cross. Because a lot of the eagles, vultures, storks, they're designed really well for thermal flight, but there are no thermals forming over the sea. And so they really struggle with any sea crossings. And what happens as soon as they're over water, they actually lose altitude really quickly. Perfectly designed for overland. They can cross huge areas of land with very little effort at all. But as soon as they reach a big area of sea or water, it's a real struggle for them. So they're coming to this point at the 14-kilometer crossing to make the crossing here because it's the only place they can really do it. Some birds, it's the only place they can do it in the world. And that is a big barrier to them. That's a huge obstacle that they have to get right. And we have a couple things in their favor that help them. So it's the geography, the narrowness of the continents, just 14 kilometers between the two, but the wind as well. We always have a slight wind here. Sometimes it can be very strong, either the poniente, the westerly wind, or the levante, the easterly wind. So those are crosswinds. And also we have the mountains. So what the birds are doing this time of the year, so it's already starting. Autumn migration starts in July, goes on till December. And then spring migration actually starts in November, but with bigger numbers from February, and that goes on till June. And even between those periods, there's still birds crossing, but not as many. So everything has its time to cross at different times, different species, different times. But we're at a really unique place because not only is it a big bottleneck for these soaring birds coming to have to cross here, but it rarely stops. You can go the whole year looking at migration, different experiences of migration. And that's the great thing about here. So the birds are soaring up over the mountains here this time of the year, going south already. We're getting the first white storks, black kites coming in numbers now. And they're soaring up using the mountains. But what they're also doing is they're using the crosswind as well. And this kind of seems a bit counterintuitive. But when they're soaring up, they're getting dragged along the thermals. I always try and get people to picture it like a series of bed springs going down to the coast. And they're bouncing up off those thermals all the way to the coast. And then they have to decide whether they're going to take the leap or not. And it must be a leap right off the edge as well, you know, off the edge of the cliff to them. And of course, this time of the year, a lot of juveniles doing it for the first time as well. So more problematic for them. But what they do, if you imagine, they're getting dragged by this wind at the same time. So they're rarely crossing at the narrowest point at all. They're getting dragged to some 60 kilometers of coastline here. And this wind determines where they leave from, or in the spring come into. And they're getting dragged, and then they hopefully eventually take the leap and they make the crossing. They start making the crossing. But the problem is they have this side wind. Now, ideally, they would probably want a headwind, which also sounds counterintuitive because that slows their ground speed. But what it does is give them lift. We rarely get that here. It's nearly always easterly or westerly. So what the birds do, they have to time it just right as well. So when they're dropping, they're using all that thermal energy, but as soon as they're over the sea, they're dropping really quickly. And as soon as they feel they've dropped too much, they actually turn into the headwind. So they turn sideways, and then they start tacking, like a sailboat does. We're using the wind and the sails. And hopefully that will get them across. But if they go for that too early, they will get very tired very quickly. And that could be a very bad thing. Could lead to them falling into the sea and dying. They will not survive if they go into the sea. Yeah, sometimes some friendly people out on boats there will, if they encounter them, they pick them up and we take them into care and then rehabilitate them. And hopefully they get away and can actually make the crossing a little bit wiser, hopefully. But it's a huge challenge. It's a rite of passage for these birds. And yeah, we can see skies now soon. We will see 20,000 black kites, 10,000 white storks crossing in a single morning.
It's wild.
Yeah.
That is crazy. That's so exciting. I remember when I was tour leading in Morocco many years ago in 2005, I think it was. And I remember seeing my first stork ever and just how incredible it was to just see one in a nest. And the idea of seeing, did you say hundreds of thousands?
10,000 easily in a
10,000 storks crossing over. That is, I mean, that's like the Great Migration in Tanzania, really. It's a very similar spectacle.
Yeah.
I could argue probably that it's possibly even more spectacular than that, really. And no one really seems to know much about it, I guess, because it's birds, but...
Yeah. And yeah, I love seeing people's faces when they're stood underneath a swarming mass of white storks about to make the crossing. And people's faces when they're just swirling around their heads. Because it's a noise as well. You can hear the feathers in the wind. Beautiful.
Oh my goodness, this is going straight on my bucket list.
Yeah, I put you down already, don't worry. The place is reserved.
And you've already talked about storks and kites. What are the kind of moments that might leave people speechless?
One of the things I should add as well, it's quite difficult here as well with the winds, because along that 60 kilometres of coastline, you can be at the wrong point where everything's crossing maybe a little bit further away. So because we live and breathe it, and we absolutely adore this as well, it's super exciting for us. But we feel the pressure as well, being not in the right place, but we're thankfully always in the right place. But yeah, you have to judge the wind a lot, where you have to go to. And people find that really exciting as well. Because if the wind's changing, myself or Nikki, my partner, and my wife, who also runs the business, we have to leave this place. It's beautiful, but it's going to be a 10-minute ride down the road and we go to another watch point and boom, there it is. It's all happening there. The migratory thing is the real takeaway, but we've got some other fabulous wildlife here. And one of the things in the Straits as well is because you've got the confluence of the meeting of two seas, essentially, the salty Mediterranean and the very fresh, cold water from the Atlantic. It brings a lot of nutrients to the surface. And of course, you've got a little zooplankton, and then you have everything underneath, above that in the food chain as well, right up to big whale migrations, fin whales, sperm whales passing through here, and then resident pods of long fin pilot whales. So we see them all the time. I love them. They're brilliant. And the striped common and bottlenose dolphins, also resident, just living here. And sometimes you can see megapods all chasing the flying fish, tuna jumping. So it's hard because sometimes you're looking up, but sometimes you have to look down too. And then we've got some fabulous wetlands as well, really close by. Some great work by the junta in Barbate in particular, which is really close here. It's in the Straits, and that's a great place. But of course, Morocco is just a little ferry journey away as well. And it's completely different. The bird life, the nature there, even though it's only 14 kilometers away, that sea barrier makes it completely different. And of course, the food is amazing as well.
Well, let's talk about some of the tours that you have at Inglorious Bustards. Maybe we'll start with the ones that are located in the Straits of Gibraltar, because I know you have some others in some more further afield spots as well. But I really love that you have several different tours some of them just one day and some of them longer as well. Would you mind walking our listeners through all of the different tours that you offer and what people could expect?
Yeah, I can talk for ages about this.
Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say 90% of what we do is here in the Straits, and that includes both sides of the Straits, the Spanish side. So mostly migration tours here, because the migration is so long, different times, different things. But also a little bit further up the coastline, we're quite close to Doñana National Park as well, big wetland area, and the natural park there as well, where we can try and find Iberian lynx as well, one of the rarest big cats in the world. And we've actually done some work with some organic vineyards in a place called Trabajena. We're hoping to do more with them actually, but they're doing some great work in rotational, extensive, no input farming because it's organic, and they produce a sherry product as a result, but it's called alvacola, which means lift-tail. And this is after the rufous-tailed scrub robin, which has this spectacular tail. It doesn't look like it belongs to the bird. And that's a really scarce bird, and it's declining a lot. But that type of farming's really helping them, where elsewhere farming's killing them and leaving them without food or nesting opportunities. So that area, and then of course we go across to Morocco itself. We do this really unique thing, and I don't believe that this is possible anywhere else in the world, actually. I'd be surprised. But we'd spend 2 nights here in Spain, enjoying the area of Huerto Grande, which is here in the Straits, which we use for accommodation, which is a sustainable eco-lodge. It's beautiful. It's in the forest here as well. So it's really nice. Individual log cabins for people in the woods. And in amongst nature, it's a place for nature lovers. And then we go across to Morocco for 3 nights. And we do a little triangle in the top, which is really interesting because we go to an area where we actually talk about land use issues in Doñana, but also in Morocco as well, where the last of the Moroccan marsh owls are holding on to a tiny fragment of wetland, which is being destroyed by encroaching intensive agriculture, which isn't good for the local people either. I'll not go into that too much. And then up into the Bourgim forest as well, one of the biggest cork oak forests in the world. And that harbours real, wild, beautiful Barbary macaques. They're hard to find because they can be quite elusive, but if you're very quiet, they will walk amongst you. It's a really beautiful experience. And then we go to the Blue Pearl, a place called Chefchaouen, which is really lovely. It's one of my favourite places because it's just, you've been there, I take.
Yes, that's actually where me and my partner Seb met. We were both tour leading for a company in Morocco. So I know it very well.
So we go up into the mountains there, the Talasantan National Park, behind this beautiful blue city. It really drives your imagination. But then looking down on it from above at this high peak of the Talasantan, and then the bird life there is amazing as well. And we actually take a vegan lunch with a herdswoman up in the mountains there. So that's really nice. And her son as well, Ibrahim. And we really enjoy that. It's a lovely experience. And then we come back to Spain again. And then we spend another 2 to 3 nights here and exploring the local area. And without fail, everybody on that tour always says, wow, it feels like I've been away for months. And I'm always like, that's good, right? And it always is good. Yeah, people are very happy because, you live long in travel if you have lots of great experiences and lots of varied great experiences. And I think that tour just gives you a lot of great varied experiences. So that's the bulk of our tours. And then we always wanted to be able to sort of tell the story of migration, have people understanding the story of migration and the challenges, the issues, but also the wonder of it as well. And so that has to take us down to the wintering grounds where most of the birds crossing here are actually headed for. And the place that we do that is the Gambia.
That's amazing. That's so cool.
I love the Gambia because I've been going there for a very long time, since I was 19. I went on my first visit there and I was just blown away by how great it was. But I also noticed some of these European migratory birds wintering there. It was really, really interesting. And I also saw a lot of conservation issues there. And it's a very small country in the Sahel, which is south of the Sahara, north of the moist forest. But the Sahel's sort of dry, arid scrub, isn't it? But the Gambia is quite different because it has this river running through it, and a good chunk of that's fresh water. And that means that you've got essentially tropical forest in the middle of the Sahel as a result, and that acts as a bit of a source for a lot of migratory birds going there. They don't need to make the journey so far as a result.
Right.
So it really concentrates the birds, but it also concentrates our thinking around flyway conservation, so conserving areas along this migratory path that can help the birds. And we run that tour. It's completely carbon positive as a result, because all the profit we put into mangrove restoration work, and that's planting new areas of mangrove or rehabilitating some areas or recreating some areas that have been destroyed by it from felling, pollution incidents or other things. But this is really vital because it's a really important point for migratory birds to head to use for sheltering, feeding. But also it's really important for people as well, because what they don't realise when those mangroves are being taken, they realise soon after that the fish stocks decline as a result.
Right.
And there's a big problem for local villages. So we've done a lot of outreach work with the community there, and we work in partnership there with the Gambian Birdwatchers Association. And a lot of our work there is capacity building and thinking about how we plan projects. And yeah, our most successful project is the mangrove restoration work. It's been phenomenal. And now we're going back, we're taking people to areas of mangrove that the guys have been able to re-establish, and they're full of kingfishers, bee eaters, and all sorts of wondrous things to see. And it's like, wow, it brings a tear to my eye, to see that. It's really amazing work that they've done. So we're really fortunate to be a small part of making that happen. So it's really cool. And all of our tours are carbon balanced as well through the World Land Trust. And that actually includes food as well. We measure the carbon output of every food item that people have on tour. And I think we were the first to do that. And that's influenced the World Land Trust to actually have the calculator that we work together on with them to offer it to other operators. So it's it's not necessarily we're going to make a huge change, but we can demonstrate the art of the possible, and hopefully bigger companies or other companies can follow and maybe come up with new and better ways of doing it, which we're very open to as well.
I love it. And you also have day trips available as well. I'm just thinking about a more casual birder who happens to be down in the south of Spain, and they'd love to spend the day experiencing the wildlife in that area.
Yeah, we do. I didn't mention the day tours. We do a lot of day tours, and those often tend to be people who just want to experience maybe the migration or something specific. And we love doing those and get the winds right. It can be a great experience. But one of the great experiences for people on that as well is they get to sample our award-winning sustainable picnics as well, which we do out in the campo, so people can still watch the nature and enjoy a great organic, sustainably produced lunch.
I love it. And your tours are vegan or vegan friendly or vegetarian? How would you kind of classify that?
Yeah, so we are, I would say we're vegan, vegetarian friendly, but we've reduced, some people are coming on, it's hard to sort of proselytize to people about food choice.
Sure, yeah.
So we tend to be about 80% vegan or vegetarian in our diet choice. We explain that to people as well. It's on our website why we do that as well. Reducing meat consumption, obviously helping the planet in various ways. It's kind of odd as well, because a lot of people say to us, how can you be vegan in Spain? That must be very difficult. And for us, it's not difficult at all. And I think that's possibly influenced by our proximity to Morocco as well. It probably helps. We used to have 4 vegetarian vegan restaurants in Tarifa. And since COVID, a few of them have closed, but there's still quite a sort of vibe there in Tarifa as well, which really helps. But yeah, we enjoy telling people about the food choice and the reasons. And we actually take people to some of the places. So for instance, I've been working on a salt product for many years in the Bahia de Cádiz. And this is sustainably produced salt by hand. It's a really traditional practice, which actually is one of the few examples of a truly beneficial to the environment and to nature ways of human land management. So for food,
So,
because it's all by hand and the pans are very shallow. And so the macrofauna in those pans, they're about, I'd say they're sort of maybe 12 foot long and a few feet wide. So some are longer, it depends, but they're very shallow, no more than ankle deep. So you can imagine these little small migratory shorebirds that have traveled from the Arctic, coming down through to get to Africa. They're stopping off to feed. And what they can't feed in is very deep water. They need shallow water to be able to wander around in. And so if there's a lot of food in there, it's no good if they can't access it. But in these pans, they can access it. And it's a huge boom to them to fuel that migratory journey. So it's, and it's all done by hand, all completely organic, but it's a great story as well. And people can actually eat some of the things from the salt pans as well, like the salicornia as well, from the edges, and different plants around the banks as well, cooked, and very, very, very beautiful food story. It's part of our thing, really. We sort of enjoy sort of telling people why Spain has got this reputation as well, because it does have a bit of a reputation of not being that friendly to vegetarians.
So if I were to join one of your tours, could you explain what a typical day might look like, from like breakfast down to going to bed? Because I imagine that maybe you're out quite early in the morning to see the bird. I'm not sure. So how does that all look like? Is it kind of like a safari or not really?
It's a lot more relaxed than you might think. We're not up at 4 a.m. or anything like that. We're lucky, actually, in a way, because of where we are. It doesn't get that light that early. But generally, we have normally a day of start, breakfast, about 8 o'clock. Nice, long, relaxed breakfast. And the beauty of being where we often have our accommodations, and we worked with the guys at the different sites for years and years looking at more sustainable practices. For instance, not having single-use plastic, this kind of thing. But the beauty of those places as well is they're always in nature. So you can have your coffee and breakfast or whatever. And if you want to be watching nature, you can do it straight away. If you want to take it easy and just wait, no problems. And then by 9 o'clock, we're setting off on the day's excursions. The great thing about the Straits in particular is nowhere is that far away. We've only got 60 kilometers to play with anyway. A good chunk of that is normally always in one area or the other. So, no more than, I'd say, maybe half an hour's drive on average. And then we're in amongst the nature, whether that's out in the Straits on a boat trip looking for cetaceans, or at one of the many watch points along the coastline here, hoping to get into that flow of migration. And the great thing about that as well is we've got chairs and we can sit in the shade or the sun, whichever you prefer, and watch this flow of migration directly overhead. We always pride ourselves at getting people right into that flow, so you feel part of it. And, when you've got this group of maybe 1,000 white storks swirling just over your head, you feel like you could just reach out and touch them. Then that's our job done. We're very happy because we see people's faces and they talk about it all over dinner. Yeah, we have a picnic lunch out in the field, as I was saying, which we work with local producers and suppliers to produce organic and conservation produce as well for lunch. And then we're back to our accommodation, normally 6 o'clock.
Right.
And we'll go through the day's sightings, if people wish to, and just talk about those white storks or black kites for a while and just relax. And then dinner at 8. And then we get ready for the next day to repeat it all over again with some other new adventure. So that's a typical day for us anyway.
That sounds like absolute heaven. So I'm wondering if people need to be a serious birder in order to join the tours. Like I said, I would call myself definitely an interested amateur. Would I feel comfortable coming on the trip, or would I feel maybe a little intimidated by the incredible knowledge that there is out there and being tested on my knowledge of birds, for example?
I think we really pride ourselves on having all levels of birding. And actually a recent tour we did, one of the people fed back that they were kind of scared about coming because they felt they might be out of their depth and at all. And they absolutely loved it. learnt loads as well. They really enjoyed the learning aspect as well, which is really, really lovely. And we have lovely people on our tours. People come and share this wondrous experience. And it's all about share. It doesn't really matter what they are. It's just this wondrous journey that you're part of. And actually, that brings me to a story I have to share with you, because it's kind of a slight diversion off your question. But people come here and like really, really enjoy the story of migration and being in amongst it and being part of that. And one time I saw a booted eagle crossing in May with a group, and it was coming straight for us. And as it got closer, it had a satellite tag on its back. And I knew a project in the north of Spain, and I knew they were tagging it. And so I actually contacted him, and he was like, yes, this is one of our birds. It's a bird called Maya. She wintered in Arandoniana, but was hatched in the north near Madrid. And I thought, wow, this is a marvelous story. I could, and it was great with the people as well, because we could see its migratory route down and how it had come back and passed right by us. But this story isn't over just yet, because in August of that year, I was at a different watch point, and this booted eagle came over going south, and it had a satellite tag on it. I was like, well, it couldn't be Maya, could it? So I'm now very good friends with the project organizer, Ignacio, great guy. I contacted him straight away. I was like, is this Maya? And he, yes, it's Maya. Just being connected to a bird like that, to share it, to witness its journey. I wonder if it recognized me, Yeah, it would be very cool. But they say I have a special connection to Maya anyway. But what a beautiful thing. So the likelihood of that happening is pretty slim, I think, but maybe not that slim in the Straits either. And that's the thing, just like Maya, nearly everybody comes back to the Straits. They don't just do it once. It's like a bit of a drug, that they need. And yeah, we have people, which is a great compliment when people come back, of course. But maybe they're coming back more for the birds, but, to witness that. And all levels of birders. And people are just, if you enjoy nature, you love nature, you'll be on the right tour. And that's all you need.
I love it. So Simon, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It was so interesting to learn about the Flyway and about the tours that you're doing. It's so awesome that there's such a vegan-friendly conservation birding tour out there. Can you tell me again how people can learn more about your tours and maybe some of the tours that you've got coming up, so that people can check it out and maybe put it on their bucket list too, just like I have?
Yeah, thanks so much for having us on here as well. It's great to chat to you. Yeah, if people want to find out more, all the tours, loads of information about the migratory flyway here and what we're doing conservation-wise as well. And you can actually look up our sustainability report there and look into how we work on food choice and other things as well. And that information's all on our website. It's ingloriousbustards.com. And yeah, we're active on Instagram, Twitter, or X as it is now, and Facebook, of course, as well, and Blue Sky. But yeah, all the information's on our website, ingloriousbustards.com. Tours we've got coming up, next ones. One I didn't mention, actually. These are in July. The crossing of the white storks and black kites is well underway, huge numbers. But also the swifts start coming. So we have 5 species of swift here. So they not only get to see all these common swifts that have bred in Northern Europe making their way across the Straits, but also pallid swifts joining them. Alpine swifts, which is a huge swift. It's got a 2-foot wingspan, would you believe?
What?
And very rare European breeders like white-rumped swift, which breed here, is very, very scarce, and a little colony of little swifts as well. So from the very biggest to the very smallest. And yeah, it's a great experience, and yeah, it was a great tour as well. Really nice.
Thank you so much, Simon. It was lovely to talk to you, and good luck with all of your tours and the incredible work that you're doing.
Thank you so much.